Been walking step by step in the shadow of the cross. Imagine if you were in that position. Imagine if you knew that you were going to die in a matter of months and you took one step upon another going towards that destination. That's what he was doing. He knew that he had a date with the cross. He was on the Father's timetable to fulfill all things. But he was moving inexorably toward the cross. And as he did, he was teaching along the way. And as you know, he was healing many, many people. And he kept teaching about the kingdom of God and the aspects of the kingdom of God. And a question was shot to him that is the fundamental question of our day. It's the fundamental question of all time. It's the fundamental question that could ever be asked. And it's asked of the Son of God. Now, many of you know that this particular question has been asked by Larry King. Larry King has asked this question of Joel Osteen. He's asked this question to Rick Warren. He's asked this question to John MacArthur. And there's been some varying answers, some answers that would really, frankly, disappoint you. One writer I was reading about some of the answers that have been received by Larry King to this question said that one pastor did more dance moves than Fred Astaire, as he basically dodged the question because he didn't want to be politically incorrect in front of a largely secular audience. What was the question that Larry King shot to him? Well, you know what it was. Is Jesus Christ, do you believe that Jesus Christ is the only way to God? And are you telling me, as a follow-up question, something like this, that all sincere Muslims and Jews, are lost, are going to hell if they don't believe in Jesus Christ? Is that what you believe? And you watch some pastors dance around and they don't want to answer the question. Some pastors have kind of given a weak answer. And some pastors, like John MacArthur, have stood strong in the face of a lot of heat and said, yes, that is what I believe because that's what Jesus Christ said. So what happens is sometimes when we're cornered like this, we feel pressure because we feel like the argument has been taken to us. It's been taken to the man. It's an argument given to the woman. Oh, if I say this, I'm going to seem narrow, bigoted, etc. And so sometimes you watch people give one answer when a Christian audience is listening, and they tell that Christian audience what they want to hear. And then they give another answer when they know there's a different audience, i.e. a secular audience, or an audience of another religion. Then it's something different, or it's way brought back or watered down. Is that what we should be doing? Should we play to the audience? Is that what Jesus did? No. Now we are to be all things to all people, that we might win some. No doubt we can tailor the presentation of the gospel to the audience. To the Jew, you're going to go to the Old Testament most likely, as they did in the days of Paul and Jesus. But to the Gentile, you might appeal to creation or natural revelation, general revelation. But ultimately, you are always going to end up at the gospel. Because if you don't end up at the gospel, you have not told the people the truth. And Jesus is the best person to answer this question. Aren't you glad that it was asked of Jesus? I don't care what Larry King thinks. I don't care what any other pastor thinks. I want to know what Jesus said. And if I'm cornered on this message, this, do you really believe that? What I'm going to say is, I believe what Jesus said. Jesus said that. Your argument is not with me, it's with Jesus. Now someone might say, well, wait a minute. Do we really know that's what Jesus said? Now we have a different argument. Now we can talk about whether or not the Bible is inspired, and hopefully you can make a defense for that as well. But where people have gone wrong, and I've watched this happen to people, and of course when someone's got the lights of the camera and the pressure, we understand humanly how that happens. But still, there's no cop-out here. Look, if you're going to stand before a group of people, you have been derelict in your duties. You have done them a disservice if you don't tell them how to get saved. What good is it if you don't tell them the truth? And so here we have these questions that have been shot to very prominent pastors. And the truth is that a lot of the times the response has been weak because the person felt pressure. If I say this, what will I look like? But what we have to say, and if you're ever confronted with this question, say, look, that's what Jesus said. Jesus claimed to be the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus said, no one comes to the Father except through me. so your argument, sir or ma'am, is with Jesus. Now, if you want to reject Jesus, if you don't think that he has the right to tell you the way to be saved, then go for it. You have free will. But I have to tell you the truth. If you don't go through him, and he is who he claimed to be, you are lost. Now, what do people do? Well, here's what they do. This is kind of what the people of Israel did, sadly, in the book of Isaiah. They looked for other options other than God. So when people say, look, I don't want to do it God's way, what they're saying is, God, there's got to be another way other than you, God, to be saved. There's got to be another path, God, and usually the other path is me. The whole book of Isaiah is about the people trying to make alliances with Egypt and other world powers, trying to say they can save themselves, or going to other gods, which in Isaiah chapters 40 through 48, God says they can't save you because they are not real. So what we say to God when we say we're not coming his way is, God, I'm not going to come through you because I don't think you're the only way of salvation. What? God, I don't think you're the only one who can truly save me. I think I can save myself, or I think an alternate God can save me. And then, when people are confronted with the reality that they cannot be saved any other way, you know what happens? They get mad. How dare you, God, tell me that you're God and you're the only way that I can be saved? What? Do you see kind of the weirdness of that logic? That's nothing but pride then. So we're saying, God, get this, you're lying. There's other ways to be saved. It's not true what you say. Now people can say, well, I don't believe that Jesus is truly God. They have that prerogative, but he proved to be God. They could say, you know what, maybe the interpretation of these texts is wrong, but you're not going to be able to wiggle out with that. This is the question of all mankind, and I'm so glad that someone asked Jesus. Look at Luke 13, verse 22. And Jesus was passing, Luke 13, 22, through from one city and village to another. Notice what he's doing. He was teaching and proceeding on his way to Jerusalem. And there, remember, he would die. And someone said to him, Luke 13, 23, Lord, are there just a few who are being saved, or going to be saved? And he said to them, strive to enter by the narrow door. For many, I tell you, will seek to enter and will not be able. Once the head of the house gets up and shuts the door, and you begin to stand outside and knock on the door, saying, Lord, open to us. Then he will answer and say to you, I do not know where you are from. And then you will begin to say, we ate and drank in your presence, and you taught in our streets. Look, we hung around you. We were in your presence. We heard your teaching. And he will say, 27, I tell you, I do not know where you are from. Depart from me, all you evildoers. And there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth there when you see Abraham. Notice they will see Abraham, that here's the patriarchs of the Jewish nation, and Isaac and Jacob and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, but yourselves being cast out. Radical language. And the whole setting is, how many people are going to be saved? This is kind of the thrust of Larry King's question. How narrow is the door? And to make it personal, if there are only a few that are going to be saved, let me ask you, are you one of the few? Yes. I mean, what would it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? What will a man give in exchange for his soul? How many people are playing Russian roulette with their soul? And they're saying, you know what, I know Jesus said that, but I'm going to try to find a way to wiggle out of that. I'm going to try to find a way to soften it. Maybe it is wider. Are there just a few that are going to be saved? Look at verse 23. The NIV says, someone asked him, Lord, are only a few people going to be saved? And Jesus responds. Now, in the Jewish mind, according to rabbinic teaching, the teaching of the rabbis, They said all Jews would be saved. For John to come baptizing Jewish people in the Jordan River was foreign, and it was shocking, because Jews didn't need to be baptized. Only Gentiles converting as proselytes into the Jewish faith needed to be baptized. And so they were shocked that John was baptizing people. And Jesus is now confronting the question, and the rabbi said, look, only the most blatant of Jewish people who are sinners will be lost. Of course, most Gentiles will be lost, except for people like Ruth and others, noble ones in the Old Testament. But look, all Jewish people are pretty much in, and they're in because, you know, they have the right lineage, they have the right background. Now, Jesus addresses this issue in John 14. Go with me to John 14. Jesus is talking about heaven. He's in the last 24 hours of his earthly life. And he begins to talk about this place that he calls his Father's house. It's heaven. In my Father's house, John 14:2, there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. If heaven was not my Father's house, I would have told you that. He said, I go and prepare a place for you. John 14, verse 3.